Hello, thanks for joining us for the Lawn Fawn Lovers collaboration for April. Our prompt this month was to do an interactive card. So I chose to make a magic slider card, and I'm using the standalone die set from Lawn Fawn, the Magic Color Slider set. And remember, with this die set, the little tab is the front of your card. So that's where you're going to want to cut out the panel for your coloring to go in. And I usually cut out 2 of the tracks. I just find that the slider, it slides better with 2 in there. And I cut a little tab top as well for pulling it. And I'll just put those to the side. And my card base, I've already pre-cut to 5.5 by 8.5, and I scored it at 4 1/4. And I'm just now cutting out the acetate piece for the front of our card. So I just kind of lay it down and measure it, a roundabout kind of way to make sure it fits. And to put this together, I'm going to be using some wet glue, Tombow Mono. I usually would use a double-sided tape, but I don't have a small enough size, and I didn't want it to hang over and create a problem for the slider. So I put very little of the Tombow on there, and I'm just adding that second piece. And I find if you put it on the bottom first and get that lined up, you're good for the rest of it. And I always use an embossing buddy or a powder tool after I'm done adding the adhesives. That way there's no glue or tape sticking out and is going to stop your slider from moving. And I'm going to insert the center as well. And that's the part we'll be doing the stamping on. And there I'm just running the embossing buddy over it to make sure that there's no glue sticking out. There. And I'm just checking to see what it looks like sitting there. And now I've chosen my stamps from the Out of This World stamp set. And I'm just lining it up on my homemade stamp positioner. And the stamp at the top just was almost able to fit, but not quite. And so I kind of muck up my card with it in the end, but anyways. So yeah, I just put them where I want and then close the door and then add the magnets. And I'm going to be stamping this with Stays On ink because that stays on the acetate well without smearing. But you do have to be careful because it is sticky and it likes to try and pull up your card. So I'm just doing the paper first for the background. And I really wish I would have moved that the flames closer. I should have actually stamped them separately, but I was worried about the alignment being off. And I've just stuck the acetate piece underneath, and that way it's going to be lined up perfectly with the white paper under. And I'm going to do that one more time. There we go. Sometimes if you hold the Stays on the acetate, I find that it actually pulls a little off with it. So I try to do it for not too long. So, and I've just pulled off the acetate piece, and I'm going to make a little mask with the rocket ship. And I have to hand cut one for the flames because I don't know if the die set didn't come with one or if I've lost it. and I probably lost it. So that's the Out of This World set. And I should have probably just fussy cut the ship so that there was no white border around it. But in the end, I didn't. And the reason I'm doing the masks is because I want to do a background to make it look like, you know, space. Yeah. And I'm going to be using these finger daubers. I just got, I think, 40 of them for about $25 from Amazon. And it even came with a little case, so it's a very good bargain, I thought. Anyways, I'm going to be using the Distress Oxides to make my background. And I'm using Black Soot, Wilted Violet, Faded Jeans, Fossilized Amber. And I really am enjoying the Distress Oxides. I love how easy they are to blend. I like the Distress inks as well, but I find these just, I don't know, they seem to blend so much nicer, and it's easy. And I'm just going to keep adding the colors on top of one another until I feel like it looks spacey enough. And I should have checked. Yeah, there we go. See, I didn't check the window to make sure it was completely filled. There. Now I got to go back and just like add a little bit here and there till it works. There we go. So now that's all done. And we can pull off the masks. And I'm just going to color the images with some Spectrum Noirs. I'd really love to buy some Copics, but I just don't feel like I would use them enough. I'm just too shaky to color well. But I do love the way they look when they color hair with the Copics and stuff. It just, I don't know why, it just looks so much nicer, the flicking motion of it seems to make a nicer look to it, a better blend. And after I did that window orange, I thought, hey, that's a window. It shouldn't really be orange, but it is now, so we have an orange window. We're just going to pretend it's not a window. And we're going to line up that acetate piece to make sure it fits still, and it's going to close and get glued on correctly. And I'm just going to cut off a little bit because it's a bit too long. And there you go. And I'm going to just run a little line of Tombow around. I'm going to dot it around there. And try and hold it still so you don't, whoops, I slid it. Try and hold it still. That way it's perfectly aligned still. And press that down really well. And you should pull it up quickly to make sure that your glue hasn't seeped out, which I didn't do it quite quickly enough. So back in with the embossing buddy to clean that up and make sure it stays or it gets unsticky, because you don't want your mechanism to get stuck after doing all this work. And I try and keep it off the window as best as I can, because it sometimes will scratch your window up. But if you do get it on there, try blowing it off rather than rubbing it with a napkin or anything, because I find it scratches it and will make it almost look cloudy. So, and I'm just lining up that sentiment stamp. And I should have probably used the stamp positioner for this, so I could have double stamped it, but I didn't. So it's always good to check to make sure you're stamping it within the window. And it's going to say, I hope your birthday is ... out of this world. So, and I'm just going to put this next stamp on my block. Now, what I'm doing here is very bad. I'm going to make a mess. I am using the Stays On Again for the acetate because it sticks on well. But I shouldn't do what I'm doing. So I'm going to use a little piece of tape to stick down my slider to my desk. That way it doesn't pop open when I go to put the stamp down. But this stamp is just a little hair too big, and it kind of makes a mess of the edges of my window, and it also smeared a little bit when I pressed down. So I'm going to grab an alcohol swab. I buy these from the dollar store. And usually if you make a small little, make it into a corner, or yeah, anyways, I got it on the edges of my card too, so I really made a mess of this. So I've wiped it off anyway. If ever you make a mistake on your acetate, you can get it off. Hopefully you'll be carefuler than me. I should have probably used like a Q-tip or something, and that would have helped keep that mess from happening, but it's going to dissipate some more as the alcohol dries. It won't look like such a big mess. So I'm going to stamp that on a piece of white cardstock, and I'm going to use my paper trimmer to cut off the excess. And I learned this from another of the ladies in the collaboration, to use a piece of tape on your small piece of cardstock, which I don't know why I never thought of this before, but it's so simple. You just stick it to your paper trimmer and it stays right where you need it. So, and I'm going to flag the ends, and I want it to have kind of a wavy look, so I'm going to bend the banner and put some, what do we call that? Foam tape. Oh, goodness. On the back side of it. I do have other foam for this use, but I couldn't find it, so that did the trick though. And I didn't really like where I placed it. I was trying to hide the discoloration on the edges more, but it looked funny where I had it, so I moved it up a little bit, and it's fine. There we go. I'm just going to add some white dots to sort of make it look like stars on the background with a white gel pen. Make sure that's dry before you close your acetate on it. And I just did some big and some small just to add some interest back there. And I'm going to add some double-sided tape. And my tape is slightly too large for this use, but I decided to use it anyway, and I will cut off the excess that's just hanging over the edge. And as long as you make sure it's on the outer edge and not the inner edge, you really don't even need to trim it off because it's going to be stuck to a card. And now you can just pull off the backing. And just press it down with your bone folder. And make sure the mechanism works still, that it slides nice and it's not sticking anywhere. Now I'm trying to decide what I should do. So I decide that I need another piece of paper on there to make it look a little more interesting. And I'm going to add a piece of double-sided tape to add the pull to the top of the slider. There we go. And this is from DCWV. It's a stack that I got from Dollarama for $4. It was a nice big 12 by 12 set too. It was a very good deal. It's kind of an ugly piece of paper, but I thought it worked well with this card because of the color of the spaceship or the rocket. And I cut it to 3 3/4 by 5, so that would have a 1/2 inch around the edges. And I'm going to put double-sided tape on the back of the slide. I find that works really well to keep the slider attached to the card, especially if you're giving it to a small person. Sometimes they're a little bit rougher and you don't want it to rip off on them. I'm placing it towards the bottom center. That way there's room at the top for the pull tab. And that's my card for today. Thank you guys so much for checking out our collaboration. I hope you'll check out some of the other ladies' channels. They're all linked below. Thanks for watching. Bye.